Welcome back, everyone, to Royal Memorial Stadium here in Austin, Texas. The Longhorns, the reigning national champions, leading 30-14 as we get ready to start the third quarter of play. I'm Mark Jones, along with David Norrie. Stacey Dales joining us in just a few. An interesting swing of momentum, David, in the first half of play. Texas jumping out to the 16-0 lead. Iowa State coming right back into it. And then late in the second quarter, some pivotal plays which gave Texas some momentum once again.
Well, and you can't go on the road against a team like Texas here in Austin and make mistakes. The margin of error is too slim. The personal foul call, the roughing the passer, helmet-to-helmet contact by Rashawn Parker on Colt McCoy. This was a 3rd and 13 play. Keep your eyes on the left side of the screen. The ball clearly out. McCoy takes a couple steps, and a cheap shot by Rashawn Parker there. And I know his coaching staff, especially Dan McCarney, is going to let him have it on that one. And then we go to the touchdown. Loki, the defensive tackle, lining up at fullback in the backfield. Go ahead and run it. And watch him just road grade number 4, DeAndre Jackson. It was really the physical nature of that offensive line late in the second quarter, along with the personal foul call, that turned this game. And Iowa State really should be, this should be a tighter game coming out of halftime than it is right now, Mark.
One of the interesting things that we saw happen in the second quarter as far as Texas's perspective goes is how Colt McCoy, the redshirt freshman quarterback, rebounded from that interception and guided them down the field to a score in the second quarter. Showing a lot of poise, albeit he's just a redshirt freshman. This kick goes through the back of the end zone. The Longhorns will start off offensively on their own 20-yard line to begin the third period of play. And let's go downstairs to Stacey Dales for more.
Well, Mark, David just talked about it. McCarney told me just a few moments ago, too many penalties, too many bad penalties. He addressed that at the half. He said also defensively, we've got to get the ball out of their hands. Their rush offense is better than our rush defense right now. They've got to put more pressure on the quarterback and get more turnovers, guys. It's
interesting, Stacey, because coming into this ball game, Coach McCarney's defensive unit was very stout against the run, giving up under 100 yards a game, about 90 yards per game coming in. First down and 10, Jamal Charles, the lone back beside Colt McCoy. And it's Charles losing about a yard and a half back to the 18. Rubin making the stop on the play, and time for the Pacific Life game summary. A look at our halftime statistics. 281 total yards for Texas and 3 sacks. It's interesting. Coach Chiswick, the defensive coordinator, was told that they have 9 sacks coming into this game. He said, hey, that's not enough. Got him 3 more. And a nice catch here by Pittman. Billy Pittman still in bounds. Deuce on the loose, and Pittman is going to be marked out of bounds back near midfield. They're going to say that he stepped out of bounds at the 40-yard line.
Yeah, his own 40-yard line. And Billy Pittman tried to put on the brakes. Colt McCoy really showing a nice feel for throwing the ball on the run. On the roll, oh, they're going to call him out there, just the outside of his right foot on the sideline. Billy Pittman just an inch or two from breaking this for a big gain down the sideline. Let's take a look from that angle, and that is very tight. Remember, and this will probably go up to the review booth, although I don't hear a whistle. It's got to be indisputable video evidence. They didn't see enough upstairs to warrant that.
There's Charles. And Charles going to be pushed out of bounds at the 46-yard line. All Charles had a touchdown run in the first quarter of play. Storm clouds on the horizon. And Mac Brown with an interesting motivational gimmick to get his team ready for this game, with the Cyclones, quote-unquote, coming into the town. Speaking of those ominous clouds.
Sirens all week.
Stacey Dales talked about that during the pregame show. The team's sick and tired of hearing those sirens. Here's Charles. Cyclone defense sick and tired of seeing Jamal Charles run for yardage. Got a good chunk of real estate to the 45. It was interesting that last week, in preparation for the game against Rice, had his team eating rice all week. That's a little overkill.
I said,
that's good for carbs, but
Mac Brown, I said, Coach, I'm starting to get a little worried about you after the Rice Week preparation.
First down and 10. Melton's turn. And Melton picked up about 7 to the 37-yard line. Rubin making the stop for Iowa State.
Well, this is going to be the challenge for defenses in the Big 12 this season. How do you stand up to this big, physical, and athletic offensive line? And what a treat for these backs, Charles and Selvin Young, who's out of the game right now, but Melton to get to run behind that offensive line.
On 2nd and 3, Melton, a load down to the 18-yard line. Good blocking up front by Sendline, leading the way for Melton. Boy, that's just about physics. Force equals mass times acceleration. Learned that in school.
All right, Einstein. But you get a look here, the zone read play, and Melton with a nice cut, getting the ball vertical. We talk about taking the pressure off a young redshirt freshman quarterback. The best way to do that is to unleash a running game.
He picked up 21 yards on the carry, and they have a nice little thunder and lightning combination with Jamal Charles and Henry Melton. Now the combo platter in the backfield. 1st down and 10 for the Longhorns. Here's the lightning part of the equation, and lightning not in the forecast for the Cyclones that time. Brought down to the 26 by Tyrone McKenzie. McKenzie, an interesting story for Iowa State. He played regularly as a freshman, a true freshman at Michigan State, and then transferred to Iowa State.
Well, and the coaching staff at Iowa State is really excited about McKenzie. Basically, he has, counting the rest of the season, long ways to go in the 2006 season for Dan McCarney and his middle linebacker. But McKenzie has 3 years, and they are very excited about his prospects.
2nd and 14, McCoy with a quick drop out of the shotgun. And Pittman chopped down to the 17 by Chris Singleton. Approaching 12 minutes to go here in the 3rd quarter. About 8 yards to go now for the 1st down.
You look at the great strides the Cyclones defense has made over the last couple years. You know, last year they were a top 20 defense. They gave up less than 20 points per game. As we talked about, went into overtime in the last game of the season with an opportunity to go to that Big 12 championship game. And they gave up 102 yards per game a year ago.
But they have just 4 defensive starters returning, so we've got to break in some new players on 3rd and 9 here. Boy, to Charles. Charles stopped about a yard short of the 1st down at the 9. It'll be 4th and a long one coming up for Texas. Of course, you're going to hear a chorus of go, go, go coming from the fans. That's only human nature. Melton coming into the ball game. 4th down coming up.
Mac Brown has the opportunity here to make this a 3-score ball game. But when you're coming off a national championship, you have the luxury of making calls like this.
And there's Derek Lokey, the lead back out of the eye. 4th and short. On the option, McCoy got the 1st down and put it on the ground. He fumbled. Iowa State has the football. The gamble paid off, but the execution was not quite there as McCoy hobbles off the field.
Well, and I think McCoy, all he had to do on this option play was just drop the ball off to Melton. Let's watch the end of the play, and that was a fumble. The ball was out. Caleb Berg covers the football, but look at Melton.
Boy, they moved it 87 yards down the field and within range of scoring. McCoy with his 2nd turnover.
Well, watch here. All he has to do is just dump the ball outside to Melton. I think Melton walks into the end zone.
Hicks out of the end zone for the Cyclones. Gets back to the line of scrimmage. It'll be 2nd down and long as Iowa State takes over in the shadows of its own goalposts. That's part of that decision-making process and growth and learning curve that Colt McCoy is going to have to ascend for Texas to figure prominently in the national championship picture. Right now, his counterpart on the field, Brett Meyer, he started off slowly, then caught fire. 2nd and 9 coming up for Iowa State. Brett Meyer, former freshman All-American in 2004. Throwing out of his end zone, Incomplete. No flag, and now a late flag. Matt Melton was all over Ben Barkema. I mean, he was holding him like a grudge that time. That's pass interference.
Yeah, he was draped all over Barkema's back, and Iowa State has a nice duo of tight ends to work
Pass
with.
interference, number 18, defense, spot foul, automatic first down.
And Matt Melton locked on to Barkema. Play action in the backfield. Well, not a tough one to call.
Locked on. He was wearing the guy.
He was wearing him, and you know, with Barkema and nickel, we've already talked about the talent at the wideout positions. You got Stevie Hicks at running back, the best quarterback really in the Big 12, and you add that tight end tandem into the mix. This is a big time offense.
Play fake by Meyer. Looking up top into double coverage, incomplete, intended for Blythe. Brown and Griffin, arguably the two best DBs for Texas, in on the coverage.
Well, and Michael Griffin he's a bona fide All-American candidate. Brings a lot of physical aspect to this secondary. You've got to really keep him on your radar screen if you're a wide receiver, or you're going to get cleaned up.
You got to keep an eye on him because of his pit bulls that he breeds too. His teammates a little bit wary about him bringing them around sometimes. But he's very fastidious about researching the different types of breeds and very serious about the way he does it. 2nd and 10. Hicks got a nice block, and Hicks turns it up a yard short of the first down at the 25-yard line. Tackled by Tim Crowder.
Well, at halftime, Iowa State had to look at the rushing numbers. 15 carries for 19 yards, and not a lot of production. The Longhorns run defense, number 2 in the country coming into this game, only giving up 25 yards a game. But that was, take a look at Hicks's numbers. I think they've got to stick some with the running game here in the second half. That was an impressive run by Hicks.
Jason Scales now in the backfield at 3rd and 1. Play fake. And under heat, he throws it over his intended receiver, Walter Nickel. Good pressure by Killebrew from the Longhorns. And it's 4th and 1. They have to punt it.
Dan McCarney has to be frustrated. That was a big opportunity for Iowa State to put a drive together to get back in the game. And you know, Gene Chizik, the defensive coordinator for Texas, it seems that you get into obvious passing situations, he just presses the buttons. He'll bring Bobineau, brings Killebrew from that strong side spot. It's a lot for a quarterback to handle.
Brantner with his 4th punt of the afternoon. A spiral driving Ross all the way back to the 22. Aaron Ross tackled at the 36-yard line. When we come back, Colt McCoy taking the reins of the offense after the 51-yard. A few Thursdays ago, before Colt McCoy's first season opener as a starting quarterback, he went up to his head coach, Mack Brown, and said, "Coach, is it normal that I'm not nervous?" Coach Brown said, "Hey, listen, you're not nervous because you're prepared. It's okay to be a little anxious, but never nervous." Completes the pass to Swede, and Swede is off. Swede into Iowa State territory, popping his collar, saying, "Hey, how do you like me now?" But there's a flag on the play. A missed tackle by DeAndre Jackson as well on the play.
Well, the big question was, where is the production going to come after the departure of Vince Young?
Personal foul, face mask, 15 yards, automatic first down.
Lima Swede. Colt McCoy is going to have enough playmaking ability around him. As long as he can distribute the ball, this Texas Longhorn offense is going to be dangerous. And Swede working a tightrope down the sidelines, keeps the ball in bounds. That was John Banks, the free safety. And that was a violent face mask. Nice job by Banks, though, to pull off of it. And Swede, again, really the big play receiver early in this season for the Longhorns.
Great straight arm on the play, too. Here's Jamal Charles, And Charles makes it down to the 10-yard line for Texas. I've really been impressed with Charles's ability to be patient and wait for his blocks. And you see him scanning and kind of taking a summary of the whole situation in front of him. A lot of young running backs you often see just kind of run and do things almost a little too fast, David.
Well, he was nicked in 3 games last year and close to 900 yards. I really believe he would have been over the 1,000-yard mark fairly easily. Remember, Vince Young went over the 1,000-yard mark last year, and Jamal Charles, really in my mind, the most exciting back in the country right now.
Here he is again. Tried to hand walk and stay on his feet, but instead falls down just shy of the 10. Rashawn Parker there to make the stop for Iowa State.
And Charles does have the ability to do more than get outside and use his speed. And, you know, to tag that, your comment, Mark, he is not a track guy. He's a running back, and he is able to run the ball between the tackles.
I'm glad you said it because, like I said, my wife gets mad when I say track guys playing football.
Selvin
a little
Young,
too finesse.
Selvin Young watching from the sideline. I'm not sure we'll see him again this afternoon.
That's Jamal Charles who's a little shaken up. Selvin Young is apparently done for the day, like you said, and Charles now a little shaken up. That would mean Melton would get the bulk of the carries next. Can never be too rich, too skinny, or have enough running backs, right? Isn't that the way it goes? One more look at that last run. It seemed kind of harmless the way it ended.
Well, and he was a little bit awkward there on the left leg. And ball came out after he went to the turf. But you know, Charles, you always get the feel that he's just a half step from breaking one. And like I said, defensive coordinators, they get the signals and the message across to their defenses. This is a 10-1 guy in the 100 meters with cutting ability.
Yeah. Chris Obanaya now in at tailback number 3 to the left of Colt McCoy. 3rd and 6 coming up. McCoy into the end zone. Touchdown! Wrestled away for the score. Finley. Finley just said, "That's my ball." Well, he threw it into traffic, but kind of worked out for him that time, David.
Yeah, I don't think Greg Davis in film study is going to say, hey, that was a good throwing decision. That was a risky ball, and really a ball he shouldn't have thrown in the way that he did. But when you have Jermichael Finley and the size and the athleticism, sometimes Finley's going to make you look good, and he sure did on that play.
The extra point coming up off the leg of Greg Johnson. Texas now leading 37-14. This a play and an education in determination. Finley, give me that.
There you go.
You know what I always say, you can't cook with cold grease. That is deep fried and hot. Just like the Longhorns offense right now. Cooking. Big lead on Iowa State. Johnson kicking off. At the 5, it's Williams. Williams brought down at the 20-yard line, just shy of the 20-yard line. One more look at that touchdown pass.
Yeah, you look back to the touchdown, and this is Jermichael Finley, and he's just going to run a corner route, but the picture is not a clean one downfield. Let's go ahead and freeze it right there. As a young quarterback, you got to recognize 2 defenders, and if you're going to let this ball go, you got to lead Finley deeper into the end zone. I know he's trying to put the ball up to a big athletic tight end, but really Hundley, the safety, should have made an interception on that ball. It was not well thrown, but with Finley, he made his young quarterback look good.
Meyer on the quarterback predetermined draw out across the 25 to the 26. You know what? You surprised me. Coming from a former quarterback, I think you'd love that on your stat sheet.
Well, you know,
I'm not so concerned with the decision making. I'm talking about the result.
Hey, there were plenty of times when I was playing when I had wide receivers and tight ends bail me out, and that's part of the process. I mean, that's what you ask for, and we talked about the talent on the offense for the Texas Longhorns ball club, and that isn't the first time that Colt McCoy is going to be helped out with the talent at his wide receiver and tight end position.
2nd and 5, Meyer. Quick slant complete. First down to the 33-yard line to Todd Blythe, and we go back with a SportsCenter input. It really shows you the premium on a quarterback, and they can move around and make some plays.
He is head and shoulders the top Heisman candidate.
And a nice pass by another talented cornerback, Brett Meyer, complete to Todd Blythe. I'm Mark Jones, along with David Norrie and Stacey Dales down to the field at Royal Memorial Stadium here in Austin, Texas. Is the Big 12 conference opener for the Longhorns and the Cyclones. And this was a game that Texas jumped out to an early lead in, 16-0, only to see Iowa State come back to within 2 at 16-14. Then a pivotal personal foul call against Rashawn Parker of Iowa State. Texas scored on the ensuing drive that was kept alive by that infraction, and then it has been all Longhorns ever since. Sellout crowd here at Royal Memorial Stadium. And Colt McCoy doing a nice job at the handles of the offense. Right now it's the Cyclones with the football on Texas's side of midfield. Pickup of 18 on the last play. Well, at least it's not as bad as last week, David. Last week Texas had 19 penalties, a school record.
False start. 58. Offense, 5 yards, first down.
This one goes against Iowa State, but like I said, last week Texas had way too many penalties for Mac Brown's liking.
Well, they've done a nice job of cleaning that up, and I know that Mac Brown wants to continue to work on that. But Iowa State, along their offensive front, you know, when you're down 37-14, you cannot afford to make mistakes and start behind the 8 ball, first and 15.
Meyer complete. Davis hangs on to it under duress, right near the first down marker at the 38-yard line. Boy, Brett Meyer threw a needle, frozen rope that melted in the arms of his receiver, picking up 15, close to a first down.
Yeah, 3 impressive balls for Brett Meyer, and if you're Iowa State, Dan McCarney right now, this drive can keep you alive in the football game. You don't capitalize on this drive, and you're in big trouble. I mean, they're already in trouble, but you're in big trouble if you don't score on this drive. And Brett Meyer getting some good protection up front. When he gets the protection, he's capable of making plays.
Little play fake. Meyer brought down after a gain of about a yard by Robert Killebrew. Not sure whether that was a predetermined quarterback run or not. It'll be second down and long for Iowa State. Well, near the conclusion of today's game, we'll select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team. To honor their determination, Chevrolet will make a $1,000 contribution to each university's General Scholarship Fund. We're here in the shadows of the state capitol, the state of Texas here in Austin. Shadows of 6th Street. Second down and 9 coming up for the visitors. Working out of the shotgun. Former quarterback Flynn with nowhere to go. Throws it incomplete. Under pressure from Robert Killebrew.
And Flynn was looking to go deep down the field. And converted quarterback, as you said, Mark Jones. But Killebrew has really been active from that strong linebacking position this afternoon. Whether it's been Brett Meyer trying to set up on that prior play, a trick play, the linebackers for Texas have been disruptive in the backfield.
I think we're talking about 2-down territory here. Third and long, blitz coming. Meyer sacked back at the 46-yard line. They got to him. They dialed up some heat. Arakpo brought him down, last year's Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year.
Yeah, and when you dial up heat, you can bring Bobineau. And whether it's been Killebrew or Bobineau, Iowa State has had a tough time sorting out the pressure. And a lot of talent up front, the defensive front for the Longhorns, and Brett Meyer, you know, he had receivers that were getting down in the intermediate and deep levels of the field. You've got to give him time for those routes to emerge.
Well, after those loss, an obvious punting situation now. Same wouldn't have been said after a potential completion. That ball might be live. Pittman not taking any chances. Collecting the loose ball at the 13-yard line for Texas. We're going to take a timeout. Right now, this thing is all burnt orange. Mac Brown, the head coach of the reigning national champions, his team leading 37-14 with 3:25 to go in the third period. The Longhorns first down and 10 from their own 13-yard line. I'm Mark Jones along with David Norrie. Stacey Dale's down in the field. Texas in command here in the third quarter. Chris Obanaya, the lone back. He takes the handoff. It's a reverse. Out to the 17-yard line. It was number 8, Jordan Shipley, with his first touch offensively of the game. Shipley's father, Bob, interestingly enough, played at Abilene Christian, was a roommate of Colt McCoy's father, Brad, who also played there.
Well, they like to use Shipley on end arounds and reverses. He's got quite a bit of speed. Even though he is coming off a couple of injury-plagued years, it's nice for Mac Brown to see him back in the lineup.
This is Melton on the carry. Melton stopped up at the 22-yard line. It'll be third and a long one to go for Texas. Fred Guerin making the stop for Iowa State.
Now, we sat down with Greg Davis as we watched Colt McCoy continue to go with a semi-no-huddle type look. But Greg Davis, the offensive coordinator, he acknowledged that they weren't going to have that zone read and the explosiveness of a Vince Young. And, of course, Jonathan Scott, the All-American, gone at left tackle. Will Allen, gone. But Greg Davis feels like the passing game, as well as the play-action passing game, they're going to gain some potency this year.
Still a work in progress. And a nice defensive play. The pass broken up by DeAndre Jackson. Almost had himself an interception intended for Jermichael Finley, the big tight end. And it's fourth down coming up. The ominous skies ahead, looming here in Austin, Texas.
Now, Colt McCoy has to be very careful in where he leads his receivers. As we look at some lightning over the crest of the stadium here. And, you know, Colt McCoy has to be very careful where he leads his receivers. That's dangerous when you lead your receiver into a hard spot.
Greg Johnson with just his second punt of the afternoon. Ryan Baum standing at his own 40-yard line, driven back to the 30. That's a demonstration of the wonderful, comprehensive special teams job done by Texas over the last 5 years. Ryan Palmer making the tackle after the 47-yard punt and nothing on the return. Well, desperation never looked this good.
For a Saturday afternoon, if you ask me.
Scheming?
Steamy.
Oh, I thought you said scheming. This is about schemes in football, too.
No, but speaking of steamy, it's a little humid in Austin. I noticed that getting off the plane the other day.
Yes, and Stacey Dales reported at the top of the show that Dan McCartney's Iowa State team didn't think that the heat was going to be much of a factor. I tell you, it is hot down there. It's so hot that you got to put your head in the oven just to
Please
cool off.
reset the 25-second clock. Clock will start on the snap.
Well, you look at the difference in the game a week ago, Iowa State against Iowa. I thought it was the inability of the receivers for Iowa State at times to get open in the second half, but also I thought Iowa did a better job protecting their passer than Iowa State did. And Brett Myers made some plays this afternoon, but the Texas pressure has definitely been a problem.
He needs a few more, but he won't get it here. Sacked by Tim Crowder. And that one smarted. That hurt.
You cannot turn defenders loose on a young, talented quarterback this quickly in the pocket. And Crowder had a spectacular play last week against Rice when he snatched the ball away from the Rice Owl quarterback for a touchdown. But now there's the talent up front is combined with the linebackers and the blitzing pressure. Iowa State has not been able to solve that problem.
I tell you, Coach Brown has a wonderful relationship with his players, including Tim Crowder, who made the sack on the last play. Coach Brown often texts text messages Tim Crowder just to remind him to keep the leadership levels up on the team. And I don't think you need a text message from your local weatherman to know that might be some rain in our forecast coming up soon. Don't forget the post-game report coming up, time permitting. You can stay tuned for that, featuring scores and highlights with John, Craig, and Doug back in New York. And we had a chance to have a great meeting, the three of us, with Coach Brown and There are not many coaches, I think, that have a real feel for their team, and the way he's able to approach his young student athletes and really determine where they are, what they're thinking. That's not always easy in the wake of a national championship season as well.
Well, and that was Mack Brown's first national championship. And you look at some of the pressure he faced over the 3 or 4 years prior to the national title. I thought it was really overboard. I mean, you look at how Texas football was unfolding prior to Mack Brown arriving to Austin, and then he starts piling up 10-win seasons, BCS appearances. They're calling him Mr. February because of the recruiting job and not being able to win the big one. I think that's all water under the bridge now. He's one of the best in the business.
They got nothing but love for him now. Blythe with the completion on the catch. Short of the first down at about the 33-yard line. Ross and Bobineau making the tackle on the play. And with the weather beginning to pick up, let's go down to Stacy.
Yeah, Mark, I just had a chance to speak with Jim Baker, who's the associate AD here and the game day manager. He said they're on the command post phone call right now with the weather folks here in Texas, and if it does get nasty, they will let the officials know. The officials will then clear each team off the field, and we'll have to resume when the storm subsides, guys.
All right, nice update, Stacy. As rains in the skies begin to show ominous signs. Hook 'em horns. That's what they're doing right now. ESPN's presentation of college football on ABC returns after this message and a word from our ABC.
Well, welcome to our studio. As you can look at the very, very dark skies above Texas Stadium, and lightning apparently is on its way, so both teams have been removed from the field at the start of the fourth quarter. They will go back out there once the weather passes through. 37-14 right now. John Saunders, Craig James, and Doug Flutie. Something hasn't passed through, and that's the Texas offense. It's been there all day long.
We've seen so many teams today around the country that have really struggled. They've showed us some weaknesses out there. But when you watch Texas, you really see a football team that has a lot of players. We've seen it at USC. I'm not be surprised to see that Texas and USC may be the best teams out there in the country. I know Ohio State, we've seen them a little bit with Penn State today, but you made the comment earlier. If Texas played now against Ohio State, how would they do?
Well, they're doing this without Salvin Young today. He basically was out of the game early, did absolutely nothing. So, yeah, if they faced Ohio State now, Texas has gained confidence over the first 3 weeks of the season, and Colt McCoy is maturing as a quarterback. I think that they are getting their act together, and it's a growing process. You're nowhere near as comfortable week 1 as you will be week 4, week 7, week 10. And it's his first year starting.
Now, Ohio State has just scored on an interception for a touchdown. We're going to take you out to that game in just a moment. But
time to go to work.